such an asshole.
Isn't it nice how we just started the Boomer Real Estate Hour just like that?
Yeah, and I know that fire pit well.
You do?
Yes.
I should introduce you to my audience so they know who the hell you are. So this is my buddy Craig Kamen. And how long have we known each other? More than half our lives, right? Like when we were young and pretty?
Yeah, it goes back to probably 1997, 98.
Yeah, 98. Because it had to be before 2000 because I bought my first house in 99. I was 24 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're my realtor back then, and you're still stuck in Minnesota, which I'm sorry about. But I mean, and no joke, Craig has been with me for a long ass time, and we've talked extensively about housing and banking and the real estate. And I would say he's one of the foremost experts, certainly on the Minnesota housing market, but real estate in general, because he is old. It's not that he's smart or anything. It's just after being alive this many years, you'll pick up one or two things.
Yeah.
And I want to bring up,
going through that housing crash, you in the banking sector, and then watching what Minneapolis was doing. I mean, you were way ahead of the curve.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, if you had given me just 50 grand, I would have left a decade beforehand. I would have it's just this black hole that sucks you in and you can't escape the event horizon. You got to burn up so much velocity to escape that place. It's damn near impossible. So I'm somewhat sympathetic of people who are still stuck there, but not by much. But anyway, so I brought Craig on because I have a question on real estate, which I don't have the time to research. Also, Craig does have a YouTube channel to which I've linked below. Your last name is spelled Kamman. And if we search you, we'll find you on YouTube, right?
Correct.
Okay. And not that you could be a realtor everywhere across the world, but you do put together more research now on your YouTube channel.
I'm throwing a lot more energy into it lately. So,
did you have a video or not a video? Did you post an image and it went viral?
Twitter? I had that incident way back when with Zillow. If you remember that incident, I got called from a couple corporate executives, the president and vice president of homes.com.
Right.
I had leaked some information on my blog, and I think you helped it make it go viral way back when.
Way back then. Yeah, but you have like a chart that you said that people are stealing your chart that you posted?
Well, I don't know if it's stole because you had linked to it a while back. So I indexed the M2 money supply to the Case-Shiller index. And I had been tracking this for, 2 years? And then I had sent it out to, posted on X, and you had picked it up a couple times and posted on it. And then Lynn Alden just posted on it, but she did a slight twist on it. And Lynn Alden's great if you see any of her stuff on X.
Is she a realtor?
No, she's kind of in that. She's a macroeconomics expert. She's kind of runs with George Gammon and
those guys.
That crowd. Yeah. But she did a slight twist on it. She took M2 divided by population. Okay. So she accounted for population within that chart, which, obviously population's a factor. But it kind of represented the same thing. We don't have a house issue, pricing issue. We have a monetary problem.
You know what? It's not our problem. No, they have. They have. We don't. Yeah. We don't. We're old. Like, are you?
We can't fix anything.
Are you at the stage like I'll be dead by then, so I don't care? I'd like a new roof on the house or those kind of things.
You've taught me a lot of wisdom through the years, and the one that sticks to me the most is I only need the lights to stay on another 25 years.
You're going to die that early, you think?
I don't know. I did some pretty rough living before we met.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. But you're not like dying just yet. I mean, your old man's still alive, right?
Yeah, I'm not quite dead yet.
You should get married again. That'll extend your life expectancy. I think that's what you should do.
Yeah, good idea.
All right, well, let me go through the request here, and we'll use your expertise because I don't have an expertise in foreclosure properties or using them, let alone for an investment. If I could just find the original one. Here we go. All right, so this is from Rob. He says, good afternoon, Mr. Clary. I would like to request your price on a video response. I've been doing some light research in real estate investment options. Once I get all my debt except my mortgage, $72,000, 4.5%, $580,000 paid off, I've been considering rental property since most of the real estate investment options that I've been interested in have shown significant issues because of the commercial real estate crisis happening in cities now. I started looking into foreclosure options auctions as where I live in rural Northwest Oklahoma. There's a bit of old properties within towns and outside the city limits that are often just under property tax liens and then some renovation to update the property after it hadn't been lived in for a few years. A coworker and a relative bought a small 3-bedroom for $20,000, then put about 10,000 in renovations in a small 800 population community as an example. And he provides a link there. It is less than a minute long, but it shows that the bank has bid up the floor of the property just trying to auction off, but their floor bid is so high that it scares off all other investors at the auction. So this is where I'm kind of curious on your thoughts. I've seen many of these same type of videos covering the same action again and again, and it all confuses me. Is the bank is really trying to get a foreclosed off house off of their books, why would they bid up the floor of the auction like this? Can you look at this video and explain what's going on, given your banking history, and if you have any experience you could share or pitfalls to avoid a municipal or foreclosed auction for real estate investments, beyond making sure you are investing in a state or city that actually wants your money in that state's economy, i.e., no rent control? Thank you, Rob. So why don't you explain to everyone what the foreclosure investment is in that foreclosure process so people kind of get the context of what we're talking about here?
Okay, so bank foreclosures, you have a mortgage, which is a lien on the property, and the note. So the note is the loan. So someone stops making payments on that note, 3 months, the foreclosure period starts. Then you have a 6-month redemption window. Each state varies a little bit, but just generally speaking, that foreclosure process is about the same. So that redemption is during that 6 months, they're going to offer to sell that note to another investor. So a lot of these online auctions, you're going to go there and you're going to try to buy that note from that lender. So that bank will go to the auction house and they'll bid on it. And they'll say, okay, I want, I'll keep this note because I'm going to redeem it. And, so they'll bid on it. They'll bid on their own note at the auction. Or if they want to walk away from it, they may let it go to another bidder. So what he may be talking about is he's competing at these auctions versus after the redemption period is over. Then the bank sells it off and the bank captures the money. So let's say, go ahead.
Well, I'm kind of confused because I thought the bank had already foreclosed on it and they put it up for auction, but they put like a limit or a floor in so that because it looks like he's already buying the property. Like this, the bank has repossessed it. It's on its OREO other real estate owned portfolio, and the bank is trying to get rid of it, but they need a certain limit to get back whatever amount of money they hope, but they're pricing themselves out of the market. You're saying this is even before the bank repossesses. This is just a note that they're trying to sell.
He's not clear on that. I'm speculating this may be before, and that's why he's not getting these bids to take. So if you go to these online websites and say buy these real estate auctions, right? You can go to the county and you can bid on them. But if it's an REO like you're talking about, real estate owned, the bank actually owns the house now. They've taken it back. Then they're going to auction it off. Then sometimes they can put a reserve on there or a floor. But I do know investors that go on to like these auction houses online and they bid on properties and they're the highest bidder and they still don't get the property. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. One speculation, it's the bank. The other is some of these websites may be like a lead generation website versus actually, dispersing real estate. So if you want to invest, I would just kind of avoid that. If it's easy to do, everyone out there is doing it. So if you want to buy REO properties, start going to your community banks. If he's in rural, what was it? I wrote it down. Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. Start going to the local banks. Go to the community banks and just say, hey, I'm interested in buying investment properties. Do you have any real estate owned? Do you have anything coming back? And start building.
All right, so we're not talking about, because I think he's talking about buying actual rental property, not buying the note on it. Who's looking for some kind of mortgage or bond income, right?
That's his end objective, but he may be confused and he may be buying or he may be bidding on houses that aren't real estate owned yet.
So he's just buying the
So
note.
there's 2 auctions
There's
online.
2 auctions. Okay, so
Yeah.
let's assume I'm going to assume he doesn't want to buy a mortgage that is already in delinquency or default because it's
Yeah.
already subprime debt by that time, and he doesn't want to hound. He's not a debt collector, essentially. I think what he
Right.
is he's a real estate investor. So he's going to these real estate auctions. The bank is repossessed. It's other real estate owned, and banks are now bidding on it as well. Does that happen that they set a floor?
They'll hold a reserve on it. I don't know if they actually physically bid on it. Sometimes it appears that way. I don't know exactly what's happening there. Like I said, I've got friends that are investors, and they had bought in from these sites in the past during the GFC, and now they can't get anything on there. Right? They're just even if they're the high bidder, the house just comes back on the auction, and they don't get it, and they don't know why.
So that's online. Let me read through
That's
his.
online.
Yeah, but let me read through his quote here again because I imagine he's going in person. Started looking into foreclosure auctions as where I live in rural northwest Oklahoma. There's quite a bit of old properties within towns and outside the city limits that are often just under property tax liens. Yeah, so that it sounds like well, shoot, if they didn't pay the property tax, the county probably is
That's
repossessed
a
it then.
county auction then.
Okay. All right. And then need some renovation to update the property after it had been lived in for a few years. Coworker, blah, blah, blah. It is less than a minute long. Shows the bank has bid up the floor of the property he's trying to auction off, but the floor bid is so high it scares off all the other investors at the auction. See, many videos confuses me. If the bank is really trying to get the foreclosed house off their books, why would they bid up the floor in an auction like this? Well, it seems to me, if I got from my banking angle, is they lent out, say, 200,000 on this property. They want to get that 200,000 in principal back, or they got to post a loss on their books. So the financial incentive for the bank is to obviously put a floor in, but as often happens with different type of assets during recession or a crash, we probably saw this where the banks would try to list a repossessed property in 2007 for twice of what they not twice what they lent out for it, which is twice what they could get for it in a collapse or a post-collapse market.
Correct.
Okay.
That's what it sounds like is happening, but I don't have the details on what he's talking about. But his end objective is to buy real estate, right? And
right.
If he's not going to get them through these banks, the best way to buy them through the banks is build the relationship with the banks. Once the bankers have this REO, it's a relationship business. You were in the banking world, and especially the small banks. And if they know he's reliable and he's showing up and he's gonna take these troubled assets off their books, they're gonna start doing business with him because he's gonna solve their problem. They have a problem. They have assets on their books they got to get rid of.
What I would explain the phenomenon he's seeing is the banks. And if it was 15 years ago, I'd be Johnny on the spot and have all the data and the charts and the research. But just going through this, the banks have come into, they've repossessed property, they're selling it at auction. They want to get as much money as possible. And they've bid up the price to save their ass. I don't think they're trying to do it to make money. I think they just want to get their original money back. And what he may be witnessing is the beginning, I would say, of a full crash, but certainly a correction where the bank lent out 200,000. They want to get the 200,000, but because of whatever different rules, laws, regulations, investors like, well, no, it's not a $200,000 property. And so they drive away all the investors. And now this bank doesn't have it. So yeah, the bank would like to get rid of it. Back when I was in real banking, I would say, yes, get rid of it. This is not our operations. Take the loss and move on. We're just wasting more time dicking around maintaining this property. But bankers are dumb. I'll tell them that right now. The bankers are dumb and they don't see. I don't know a banker that lasted more than 3 years in any bank that I worked there. I mean, these are small community type of banks, but they're not long-term thinkers because, well, frankly, they're not there long-term. So it would seem to me, small little rural town, you got some wannabe big-time banker, big fish in a little pond, who can't take a loss on the loan, or he's got to dictate from his boss saying, "Oh no, we can't take that loss." Kind of Hail Marying the price they're gonna think they're gonna get from auction.
The corporate guy trying to protect his job because he doesn't want to tell his boss they're going to take a loss. situation.
It would certainly be that. But to answer the guy's question, where you're right, if you're going to these auctions and the banks are putting floors on that, no, it doesn't make it worth your while. You have to come up with unconventional methods. And Craig's absolutely right. Go to small community banks. If you're talking northwestern rural Oklahoma, that sounds an awfully like Wyoming. And I guarantee you, there's some properties that Who Dang Diggly Jessup, with his meth lab, who couldn't afford it anymore. These smaller community banks, no doubt, have properties they've had to repossess and would like to get it off their books. And it's more of a old school handshake, man to man, kind of like, hey, do you got any properties that kind of fit this description, and are they for sale? And if you get a savvy one, I mean, you're not going to get a fire sale, but they'd be like, yeah, we'll get rid of it. And you're not dealing with people bidding it up. You're taking a problem loan off their hands. But you got to find a bank that's willing to part with it at a reasonable price. But yeah, I think that's a brilliant idea, is to go drive around in the local community banks or credit unions.
Yeah, you'll get some doors shut in your face, but eventually you'll break through, because someone's going to need your help, and you're there to solve a problem for them. And they'll give you a test run. And like Aaron says, it may not be the greatest deal, but the more you solve their problems, they'll keep handing you better and better deals. So,
yeah. Well, and if you got a good credit score, they might even finance you themselves.
probably.
They can get a twofer, where they get a bad loan off their books and they put a good one on, and they don't have to manage the property anymore. I think that would be a more direct and profitable way to do it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Something that kind of struck in me, the guy seems very financially responsible, right? I mean, he's 72,000. I mean, maybe that's a lot of house where he's from, but I mean, that sounds like, you can't even buy a truck for that these days. It's crazy. But, he seems financially responsible. He wants to invest in real estate. One thing I would recommend is, real estate is people centric. So if you're buying houses, just because it's cheap doesn't mean it's a good value. You need to stick a renter in there, and you need to get good rent with someone that has a job to be able to pay for it. So, some I'd recommend is he checks the markets that he's buying and make sure that he can rent it out. Just because it's cheap doesn't mean it's a good deal.
Yeah. Well, I've found that prices usually reflect the underlying profit of that asset. Not always. I mean, the stock market is just, hey, we print off more money. Oh yeah. Price to earnings. I think Disney's at a price to earnings of like over 100 now. Like, what the really? But with real estate, you'd be looking at price to rents, and that'd be the first metric you want to look at, is what kind of, how many months, or how many months rent would it take for you to recoup your investment, that type of thing. And there's other metrics and measures, like what nationally it's at, but it's also very locally dependent on the local market.
Yeah.
But yeah, find out what the rents are before you get, because I know you and I differ on this. I will probably never become a landlord ever again. I don't want to babysit America's adult children. You, on the other hand, you're okay renting to people. This guy, I mean, I don't know. It smells like Wyoming with meth to me when you say rural northwest Oklahoma.
I don't know. There may be some good deals. I mean, there's some pretty impressive industry in these rural communities. I mean, there's farmers that have ingenuity, and they come up and they build a product, like in North Dakota, Bobcat, right? And then you get this multi-billion-dollar industry coming out of this farm community. So that stuff happens all the time. I'm going to guess Oklahoma has the same sort of thing. So he may be able to get into a community where there's industry there. There's good ag industry. There's good, someone's building a product, and they're cranking it out, and they keep a low profile. So he may find a gem there. I just don't know that market.
I would have him. Jason Hartman.
Yeah,
he hangs out with George Gammon.
Gammon.
Jason Hartman kind of specializes in the not so sexy real estate markets. Like there's good value and property values in Arkansas. There's good property values in this town in Oklahoma. And I think Jason Hartman might even have some research he could look up.
Yeah, he's worth looking into. He knows his stuff. I do like his stuff. He provides opportunities for investors to go buy, and he'll do the management for them as well. So you can buy new construction through him, and he's got a good product. He's a good content to listen to as well. But I think he's more in that southeast corridor of the state. You know, that Georgia, the Florida, that southeast corner. I don't know if he's in Oklahoma. He may.
Well, he's
be.
in Greece now. He's on some big old
Yeah, I saw
yacht tour.
cruise.
Yeah. I say he would say, "Hey, Mr. Rich Cooper is here," and all these other people. I'm like, "Yeah, I wish I could go. I just don't have the time." But yeah, he's a good guy too. Like I would trust him implicitly. So cool. All right.
Yeah,
Well,
there's a few guys to listen to in the real estate crowd, and he's one of them. So yeah.
All right. Anything else you could recommend to this guy?
No, just make sure that your tenants are going to have jobs and not supporting it through meth sales, right? It's going to be you got to be where the people are. People are going to be the renters, so make sure that there's jobs for the people to pay your rent, and then follow the property second. So the market's first, property second.
All right, cool. All right, and people could find you where I have you linked below.
Craig Kamen, that's it on YouTube.
All right,
and then Craig
Kamen
MN on Twitter or X.
Craig Kamen on Twitter.
Yes, it's Craig Kamen at Craig Kamen MN on X. Yep.
All right. Well, people could search you and find you there. So, all right. Well, thanks for coming. Oh, wait, hang on. We got to do super chats. No, we don't. There are no super chats.
No super chats.
Nobody likes you, Craig. You scared away all the super chat money.
Come on.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on. Everyone, go take a look at Craig's channel. Subscribe if you. Oh, how many subscribers you got now?
Oh God, I might even be up to 45.
45? Well,
yes,
we'll get you up to 100,000. Do you remember Ryan Steva? He was a tenant of mine.
The name rings a bell.
He went down to Tennessee and became like an off-grid specialist, and he's good. He has some like YouTube channels, but he was very he's not shy. He's just not a bombastic person. He's very calm and quiet, reserved younger man. So he had something like, "Oh, hey, can you help me out get 100 subscribers?" And I tweeted him out and did a video. I'm like, let's get this guy up to 1,000 because he deserves it. Got out for like 980. So
wow.
Yeah. Hopefully you won't have to do realty anymore. We'll just have you become a YouTube influencer, and then you can.
Oh yes, come August 17th, the whole world changes.
Why's that?
The Department of Justice is doing to the real estate industry what the EPA did to the gas cans. Remember when the EPA said you can't do the regular gas boats?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Department of Justice stepped in and said we can't advertise what we're paying the buyer's broker on the MLS anymore. So now, in order for a buyer to go see a house, they have to sign a buyer representation agreement with an agent to get into the house.
I'm confused. Okay.
It
makes no sense. Right. Okay. It makes no sense. I shouldn't understand it. All right. They just made it more difficult for a buyer to buy a house.
They made it a lot more difficult for a buyer to buy a house. It benefits the investor, right? Because the investors can blow past this because they don't need any help with getting into a house or anything. And so the first time home buyers kind of hosed. So they have to negotiate their what they're going to pay their agent up front before they can see a house. They can bypass a buyer's agent and go directly to the seller's agent to see the house. But if they write an offer, in some states, they can't have that seller's agent write the offer. They could hire an attorney to draft the offer, or they could write it themselves. But without anyone to walk that through closing, there's going to be no savings on commissions because the seller's agent is going to have to still charge to walk this thing to closing because there's no other agent involved. It's a disaster waiting to happen. Now there's a bunch of lawsuits backing up on this too, so that's going to change as this rolls out. But August 17th, the world changes. So,
like I said, I'm glad I'm going to be dead in about 35 years. I'm glad the youngins get this. I'm glad you young people. And by the way, you young people need to work harder to pay for me and Craig's Social Security. We are old, almost 50-year-old men. We need you young people to work harder and pay that. So, but this is not going to help younger people, right?
No,
the first time entry.
Not.
Okay, yeah, I joke about the Social Security. But I do feel
millennials and Gen Y get screwed on this. So
they already are facing higher, not to go on, but I do feel sorry for younger people with the prices you're facing, the monetary policy that's resulted in this, and now just more bureaucratic bullshit that you get. But oh well. We do have a super chat. This is from Not Sure. $2. Rent economy makes sense. 15-minute cities. Yay.
Oh shit.
Oh.
It just sounds painful.
Yeah. All right. You can find Craig at Craig Kamen on YouTube. We'll see you guys later. Toodles.